Hey guys, Joe DeMarco from the Crazy New York Driver Show. Today is Tuesday, January the 5th, 2021. Welcome to Life Story Episode 3, which I call The Resentful Kid. I think you'll enjoy today's life story, and there's definitely a lesson to be learned here. It's going to be a little bit on the long side because I have a lot of details that I have to explain to you first to set the stage. So that being said, let's get started right now. The story takes place when I was younger, back in the mid to late 1980s. You guys may remember that Ronald Reagan was president, the country was doing great, and there was plenty of money around. I don't know anybody who wasn't making excellent money in the mid to late 1980s. Consequently, a lot of my customers were driving upscale domestic cars, luxury cars, Cadillacs, Lincolns, Chryslers. That's when domestic cars dominated the market here in the United States. So, at that time, I was working in a junkyard. I was young. I was still doing the same thing I'm doing now. One of the cars that was one of the cars to have at the time was the Chrysler Fifth Avenue. It was the top of the line Chrysler back in the mid to late 1980s. And if you saw somebody driving a Chrysler Fifth Avenue, that was a status symbol. The Chrysler Fifth Avenue was a luxury car, and it came with several different choice hubcaps. These were the kinds of cars where if somebody lost a hubcap, they would come in right away and want to replace it. Never bickering on the price either, usually. But I want to discuss the design of one of the hubcaps because that's what this story is all about. I have this hubcap in my hand here. This is not from the Fifth Avenue, but it is designed the same way, and I want you to understand it. The outside area here is all plastic, okay? It's a good-looking hubcap, and on the back, where it attaches to the wheel, these are metal clips, okay? However, there was a bad design. Let me show you here. Look at the back of the hubcap, right there. See these black things? These are plastic rivets. And this metal piece is held to the plastic fascia with these plastic rivets. Terrible design. I'm sure it was not Lee Iacocca's idea. One of his engineers probably designed this, and it's terrible. Over time, these things would wear out, and the hubcap would start to rattle, and eventually it would break apart. The face would come apart from the metal piece. So usually the metal piece would stay on the customer's wheel, and the big face, the fascia, would just fall out. Now sometimes the customers would find them, get them back, and sometimes they wouldn't. So I had quite a few people coming in for these Chrysler Fifth Avenue hubcaps, and I could not keep up the supply. I mean, I would sell them as quick as I got them. As I said, people would often bring half of their hubcap into me, the face. Like they lost it on the road and they wonder why it won't go back on the wheel because it's separated, it's no good. So often when they would come in, the metal piece, like I told you earlier, was still attached to their wheel. So I said to myself, there's got to be a way to fix these hubcaps to make them secure. Now, over the course of time, I've seen old people. So old people love doing these makeshift repairs that are unsightly. And what they would do is they would drill a hole. They would drill several holes in the edge of the hubcap here, right here, bang, bang. And they would put these big screws and nuts all around the hubcap so it was attached back to its clips and it would stay on the wheel, but it looked like garbage. And there was no way I'm going to do a repair like that. It's unsightly and it's unprofessional. So I came up with a good idea. I said, I'm going to buy silicone And I'm going to try siliconing the metal clips back to the plastic fascia. It's got to work. I said, I'll let it dry for 24 hours. Then I'll take a razor knife and I'll scrape off any extra silicone. I said, there's no reason this should not work. I started doing that, and it was an instant success, a resounding success. The hubcaps fit on great. They were tight. I never had a single customer ever come back and complain that they were breaking. Okay? So naturally, when people came in with their old hubcap, or just the piece that's on the wheel, I would take it and it was of no use to the customer. They didn't want it. They'd say, throw that thing out. I don't want it. I'd take it and I'd put it in my reserve pile. And I would mate the metal piece that's still on the customer's wheel to a plastic fascia that either I got on my own or that came from a previous customer, right? I would silicone it together and I'd make $20 because at the time, those hubcaps were selling for $20. And back in the mid to late 80s, $20 was a decent price. So sometimes customers would ask me when I was installing it, they would say, Joe, I've never lost a hubcap that I bought from you, but I keep losing the originals. Why is that? And I would explain to them that I'm siliconing the piece on and it would never go bad. And they would love it. The customers would say, Joe, that is a great idea. You should be working for Lee Iacocca because your design is better than that from the factory, which is true. So, let's get to the point of the story now. I had this one customer, a middle-aged guy. He would have been about my age right now, or maybe even slightly younger. He was a successful lawyer in Hackensack. Let's call him John Smith. So John Smith was the nicest guy you ever met. He would come in with his Chrysler Fifth Avenue. He had two of them, actually. One for him and one for his wife. They both had the same car, and he would go through those hubcaps like crazy. So after about his third one, he asked me how come he's never losing mine and why he's always losing the originals that the car came with. And I showed him what I was doing, and he said, Joe, this is a great idea. You should patent it. It is a wonderful idea. You're to be congratulated. Okay? Nicest guy I ever met. Paid up to 20 without blinking an eye, and I believe he always tipped me as well. So one day, John Smith comes in, and he brings his son with him. The kid was about my age, and the kid was really preppy. One of those kids dressed in really clean clothes with his hair just perfect. And as I'm putting the hubcap on for John Smith, he's explaining to his son how I've come up with the idea to silicone the clips back to the hubcap. And John Smith is giving me praise. And I can see this kid is looking at me with nothing but disdain. Guys, if you've ever had somebody in your presence looking at you with disdain, you know the feeling, okay? I've had this happen before. So I can tell that this kid is not thrilled with me and really not thrilled with his old man extolling my virtues of the hubcap repair. But at that time, it didn't really matter. So I put the cap on. John Smith paid me, took his rich kid with him, and off they went. A few months later, John Smith calls me up and says, Joe, I need another hubcap, but I'm in court today and I can't come over. Is it okay if I send my son? He'll be driving my car. You remember my son? I said, yeah, you can send him. He said, okay, he'll have the money and he'll come over. So sure enough, the son comes over, parks right in the driveway out front, and he comes in carrying this piece, the face. Okay? Keep in mind, he's carrying this. It's broken. This piece is still on the wheel. So he comes in carrying the hubcap, and all right, I go out with my hubcap. I pry off his clips, put them on the ground, and I'm starting to bang my hubcap on his wheel. All of a sudden, I hear this crashing sound right next to me. Crash! I look up, half scared to death, and there's a plastic hubcap bouncing. I said to him, "What are you doing?" Because he really scared me by doing that. And he says to me, "I'm smashing this hubcap so you can't reuse it." I said, "What?" He says, "I don't like the fact that you're making $20 by taking people's old hubcaps and fixing them and putting them back together and putting them on people's cars. You don't deserve to make money that easily." And I looked at him. I wasn't mad. I was more shocked than anything. He said, "I know you've been charging my old man $20 a piece for these, and you shouldn't be getting that money, and you're not going to get this cap." And then he took the metal piece and he twisted it up and he threw both pieces in the trunk of his car. He then after he paid me, he pulled out and he left. One of my coworkers, unbeknownst to me, witnessed the whole thing. He said to me, "Joe, that guy's a nut." He goes, "You weren't looking. You were putting the hubcap on, but he picked that thing up with all his might and slammed it down on the ground. The guy's a psycho." The moral to this story here is, in my opinion, as I said, the old man was the nicest guy in the world I ever met. Man, if every customer of mine was like him, things would be great. But these nice guys seem to produce these savage offspring that are so hateful and resentful of people. I didn't do anything to this kid, all right? But for some reason, he saw me as, I don't know, some kind of a threat or something. I never did understand that, but it's one of the stories that has stayed in my mind all these years. The resentful kid. How could somebody be that way? It's sad to say, but in life, there are some people that are very resentful when they see you making money on them. For instance, let's say you're a reseller and you go to a thrift store and you buy something for $20. Let's say you list it on eBay for $40. You made 20 bucks. But if the person at the thrift store realizes you're making 20 bucks on what you just bought, they may come up with a snide comment like, "Oh, I guess my prices are too cheap. I'm going to have to start charging you more money. You're making too much." I'm sure you guys have encountered that kind of thing. And that's why I just, I'm not like that. If somebody buys something from me for $20 and they turn around and sell it for $50, God bless them. As long as they pay the price that I'm asking, I'm happy with it. But this was a story that I've been wanting to tell you guys for a long time, and I'd like your opinion, if you don't mind, on this particular incident and this resentful kid. Guys, I'm Crazy New York Driver and you're not. Thank you for watching my life story number 3. If you like these stories, I will continue to try and put out maybe once a week if I can. And I will always guarantee you it'll always be cloudy. Rock on and peace!